Okay, so we're going to get started on today's Firestarter Chat. Really exciting video series, live conversations being presented by Independent Jewish Voices Canada. So thank you to everyone who's joining us today, whether it's on Zoom or on Facebook Live. We have an incredible event we're going to be doing in conversation with 47 Soul, an amazing Shamstep band from Palestine who are with us, kind of spread out all around the world. But that's the beauty of these conversations is bringing people together in conversation. And I'm going to introduce the band in just a little bit. I'm going to introduce our very special guest moderator today, Sundus Abdelhadi, who's also joining us here from Montreal, unceded Ganyaga Mohawk territory. How you doing, Sundus?
Hey, everybody. Really good to be here.
Amazing. So before we get into it, just to explain a little bit for those of us and for those of you who might not be familiar with Independent Jewish Voices, we are a national Jewish organization based in Canada. And we've been around for about 12 years now. We were the first Jewish organization in Canada to officially adopt the call for BDS. So that's the Palestinian-led Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions campaign. But we are a Palestine solidarity group, and we're very much rooted in the Jewish tradition of social justice and the idea of never again, right? So standing up not only against oppression and ethnic cleansing in Palestine, but also very much trying to stand with anti-racist struggles, here on these lands where we live on Turtle Island, so-called North America. So a lot of that is, standing up for Indigenous struggles. We have to give a shout out to the Mi'kmaq people on the East Coast right now who are engaged in a fishing rights battle to protect their treating rights and their rights to fish in their own waters. We do a lot of anti-fascist work these days against the rise of the far right, which is, being fomented by not only Donald Trump in the US, but by a lot of politicians throughout the world. And so if you support this kind of work, if you enjoy these kinds of webinars, or, of course, if you want to support our Palestine solidarity work, these webinars are always going to be free for people to join and to attend, but they're not free to put on. So if you want to make a donation to IJV, you can go to our website. It's ijvcanada.org/donate, and you can make a contribution there. If you're interested in signing up for a newsletter or getting involved, all that information is also up on our website, ijvcanada.org. And I would also really encourage people to check out the rest of this event series. It's really, really exciting. So of course, today we're in conversation with 47 Soul, but later this week on Thursday, we're going to be speaking with the guys from the Tareq podcast. It's a really awesome radical Jewish podcast, humor, politics. So that's going to be this Thursday, October 22nd, 5 p.m. Eastern time. And then next week, we're going to be in conversation with an amazing Palestinian poet and spoken word artist, Rafeef Ziada. And so that's going to be October 29th at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And again, all of that information you can find on our website at ijvcanada.org. And I'll post the link in the chat in just a little bit. So we'll get into today's event. And like I said, I'm so pumped to have the members of 47 Soul with us. I've seen them play a couple times now. I've had the pleasure of seeing them play when they've rolled through Montreal, and maybe some of the people joining us have also had the pleasure of seeing them play live. Live music is something that I miss so much in these times of this pandemic. And the last time I saw 47 Soul play was in Montreal, and it was just really special because you're watching them up on stage. And you're seeing people, in the crowd, dancing, doing their dabke moves. And you're seeing just like, people from all walks of life connecting to this incredible, sound that I think is so original. And then on stage, we had one of the people yelling out like, this is anti-fascist music. This is anti-racist music. This is anti-apartheid music. And that just that really resonated so much with me that like, this is a band that I think is really speaking, to and for this moment and doing something so full of energy, so original and so incredible. So I'm really, really thrilled to have them with us. I'm just going to read a little bit from the bio for people who aren't familiar with 47 Soul. So originally formed in Jordan with members now scattered between Palestine, London, and the USA, 47 Soul pioneered a unique style they call Shamstep, in which hip hop and electronica are fused with Arab influenced melodies and styles. These include the Shaabi, traditional dabke dance, and the pop music of the Levant. They have a brand new album out. I think it just dropped in August, if I'm not mistaken, called Semitics. We're going to be talking about that album. We're going to be talking about more of their music. And, we're very, very honored to have 3 members of the band with us today. We have Tareq, Walaa, and Z. So thank you all so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Aaron.
With us.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah. And then to introduce our moderator for today, when I was thinking of a moderator, really, there was no one better in my mind that I could have thought of than Sundus Abdelhadi. And, Sundus for a long time was the host of one of my favorite radio programs here on Montreal Community Radio, CKUT. It was a program called Groundbreakers. So every Wednesday at 2 p.m., it was Wednesdays at 2 p.m., right? Yeah, you could tune into Groundbreakers, where Sundus would be giving a platform to bands like 47 Soul and, to some of the most exciting artists, musicians, and activists, not only from the Middle East, but really like throughout the world. And so Sundus, for those of you who don't know, is an artist and writer of Iraqi origin. She was raised and educated in Jojage or Montreal, where she earned a BFA in studio arts and art history and a master's in media studies at Concordia, where actually we both studied there around the same time. That was kind of fun. And articulated through her artistic practice, writing, and curation, Sundus's work is a sensitive reflection on trauma, struggle, and care. She's the author and illustrator of Shams, a children's book about trauma, transformation, and healing, and her upcoming book titled Take Care of Yourself, The Art and Cultures of Care and Liberation is, I think, coming out. Is it coming out next month?
Yeah, it's supposed to be receiving the physical copies like today, actually.
Wow, amazing. Well, congrats on that.
Congrats.
And
Sundus's
work has also been exhibited in Palestine, Canada, the US, United Arab Emirates, France, UK, and New Zealand. So thank you so much to Sundus. And I'm just going to turn it over to you now to jump in and moderate this conversation with 47 Soul.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you so much for everybody who's watching. And thank you especially to Far'i, Ramzy, and Walaa for being here and doing this for everybody's enjoyment. When Aaron asked me whether I was interested in moderating a conversation with you guys, I thought back, my mind immediately rewinded to one of the last live shows that I went to see in like before coronavirus was yours, actually. And it was here in Montreal, the same one Aaron went to. It was at Sala Rosa. And I think for me, if I had to put it down to one word, what that show felt like, it felt like therapy. It just, your music does something, I feel, on like a molecular level with me, because it responds to all of the things that I seek in a musical experience. It's my roots, it's my heritage, our shared heritage, this collective, going back to traditions, but it's about the future. You know what I mean? It's something that hasn't existed before. You guys created your own sound. Shamstep is probably one of the most exciting things that has happened to, music from our region in a really long time, but what's amazing about Shamstep, even though it's so new, you are drawing from such old traditions. It's absolutely incredible. So first of all, props for the pioneering work that you do. And second of all, tell me how it like how does a sound, like how do you coin a sound? How do you get in a studio and the four of you together create something that has never really existed before? I'd love to hear the backstory.
Who would like to start?
Yeah.
You started already.
It started, man. You started a long
Well,
time ago. It's just a matter of sharing it now.
Of course, the guys are welcome to add and correct me in every information I'm gonna give. But starting with the idea that we are young people, like going back like 10 years ago as musicians in the history of each one of us who were involved in music or art making. I think the source or the passion that guided us, each one is different but same. It goes into that same river that drops into that one sea. Um, I think this is the our longing to express ourselves first and expressing our lost identity as people of diaspora, and our need as a young people basically brought us together from the diaspora. So I'm a 48er Palestinian with an Israeli passport. Tareq is born in Amman. His parents refuged from Led and Jenin. Ramzy, his father is from Biri and moved to the US. So each one was born in a or born in a way that was removed from the original homeland, you know, the original motherland. And I think this journey of us finding each other via YouTube and hearing about each other through music and social media, the main medium that connected us then and now, is what made the threads link and brought us together to make this music in genre. And I leave it here if anybody wants to pick up.
Yeah, I would say 47, like just to echo what Walaa is saying, I mean, it starts with displacement. And it comes from our identity, our search for the commonality against the fracturing. So like always being described as Gaza and the two banks and Palestinians reaching for what was the identity that we shared before that. And then Shamstep being the natural extension to go beyond those divisive states, Sykes-Picot, and reach for, you know, the Bilad Sham, present and future, in that molecular therapy that you're talking about being expressed through our pop music, which is, you know, electro dabke.
And you know, I feel like you just answered all of the next questions that I had, which all, you know, centered around geography and displacement, because that's, I feel like, such a huge part of like your experience as people. And I feel like when looking into your guys' history, you all experienced displacement at different times in your lives, and in different circumstances, especially as Palestinians. Far'i, I'd love to hear from you. I feel like if I have to think about one person who's experienced like the most recent shift is yours, because you grew up in you grew up in Amman. That's where we met many years ago.
Yeah, definitely.
And most recently, you've been living in London now for, I think, the life of 47 Soul, the age, like the same age as 47
Yeah,
Soul.
pretty much. Yeah. Because we moved in 2014 and 47 Soul started in 2013. So yes. But that said, I did live in the States for 5 years in the past for studying. It was quite a crazy time, you know. Like, I'm the guy who arrived to university in like 2 weeks after that 9/11 happened. And you know what I mean? That was in Lincoln, Nebraska.
But anyways, I wanted to say something about the earlier thing, which, you know, there's been a hint about Shamstep in the back of my head and maybe in the back of the guys' heads as well. And it's something you would see in neighborhoods back home, right? In our region, where you would find kids break dancing when they're in a dabke party. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because, and I'm not talking about necessarily, you know, maybe like young kids, just because, and I don't know how much of the connection, you know, I'm not talking about someone intentionally trying to mix different kinds of music, but like the natural instinct of what happens. And this is one of the things that hinted on why would we do that, also that sound. That's more like the sonic fun part of it, other than the cultural part of it. It is cultural, but you get what I'm saying. It's less about the geography and reaching out than just saying that it is the same thing, because the streets kind of express that in a way, right? And even if that was a minority of the kids dancing, I'm not saying that everyone who dances dabke goes and tries to break dance, but that phenomenon repeated a lot to the point that, you know, someone had to search like what's going on here, right? But yeah, if London is, I moved here, you know, when I'm older, and I feel that you know, it's a good place to think about, make, you know, connections on a global level.
I feel like London was a space for where a lot of that sound was created. I think at one point you guys were all living together, making music. Was it the last album? It was all created
all of the albums.
Space?
all
the albums. Yeah.
Yes, all of it. Yeah.
What's that dynamic like? But on one hand, you know, you have all these creative musical minds together sharing space, and then the different genres that you're coming in from. I'm like, that to me is so fascinating. I live with a musician, so I understand like that, those moments of creation and what they can do, the potential of them. And yeah, I'm so curious. Give me like a, because now you guys are all in different places. فرعي, you're in London. Walaa, أنت بفلسطين. Z, you're in the States.
Yes.
So do you,
You know,
first of all, do you miss all being in the same space? Is it coronavirus that kind of like shatetkum, like it just kind of put you guys in separate places? Or
I'll say something
It's
really
interesting.
quick.
I wanna give an answer. Go Farah, go.
I'll say something really quick. Most musicians always say, man, if only we had that one space where we can just focus on music and all collaborate. Like, that's a dream, you know. Everyone talks about a retreat. Like, if only, right? That's what we try to cater to do to ourselves. And it was very, 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 very hard. I mean, it was super hard, right? And I don't want to get into details of
easy.
right? So like, we did establish the idea of like, yeah, you can actually bring 4 grown-up Palestinians and put them in a room, make them work out something, you know what I mean? But it was, the friction is a lot in a good way. And so we built, and we've actually went through it, and, you know, it's a lot, like, it's 5 years. It's like going to do master, you know, university. It's a bachelor degree in working with each other. And so, and of course, now it's fresh to go back to, we're, you know, I mean, doing our own thing. So I think that going in and out of group and solo is something that every musician need to work to do for themselves. It makes it harder, but it gives you both experiences. That's what I want to say.
True. I want to back up the thing that Farah is saying. Like, I don't want to talk musically, because musically I feel like we were on a like, until now we're on a very good understanding of how to make music, because we feel each other's understanding of music. So which is a easier part. But it's the idea also, going back to that idea of identity, is that we are different people, you know, like we are coming from that same people, but we grew up under different conditions and different reality of occupations or capitalism or distance from the home, like the oppression of distance from the homeland. And this was like something to overcome throughout the years. And I think we managed to do that. Yani, at the end, we agreed how to manage the kitchen, the three of us. That's very important.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm gonna add to sorry, I'll get that. Sorry, I'm gonna just add to that quickly. Like we started there, and our parents
Yeah.
started even there before us, and we began in the way of, you know, like the long email threads and the discussions about music that developed into demos being sent. And if I was in DC, Farah in Amman, Walaa in the Galilee, and then I'm in Gaza, Amman, and always sending the idea of, like Farah and Walaa are talking about, the win is to get in the room together. But even when we were in when we were in Amman and even in London, like the first year in London, we were writing in separate rooms because of, you know, financial reasons, and like it was a long project to get actually in that space where we can be like, okay, and on a everyday basis, what is the update? So it's not new to us right now, the situation, and yeah, I mean, I guess it sums up a lot of our fight to be a band.
to be honest, I've never thought of that before this year, because it's been a while. You know, we haven't seen each other in a while, so everyone's really like, and I've never thought of that. Like, I don't know why. I don't know. I've never maybe been in a situation where I feel like I need to say that. But what it is that when I look at, you know, Facebook arguments and some trolling and stuff that happens, or any position, even friends or on a WhatsApp group or with a group of friends that has the sort of positions that would typically be like, oh, that looks like a typical position from a Palestinian American. That looks like a typical position from a guy from the West Bank. Oh, that's a typical position for someone who's from 40A. Oh, that guy talking sounds like he's Palestinian Jordanian. He doesn't get what's going on. You know what I mean? That all these things that we argue about, and I think about 4 of us in 47 Soul, the 4 founders, you know, I feel privileged. I really feel that I am intellectually privileged to have had the actual living with, you know, with Palestinians of different kinds. Other than that, I'm Palestinian Jordanian, which kind of gives me that kind of thing. And I have a Palestinian ID. So I've spent most summers going to Jenin. So I know what the West Bank is, you know. Shout out Jenin. But you know, like, it's just, I just feel like I know something different, and I hate to talk about it a lot of times because it always sounds like, yes, because you like in London and you get to sit and think about these things, and that's partially true as well. So I can't really, you know, it's a big struggle. It's a big struggle to, I don't know. I just want to say that.
No, I mean, I think it's amazing that you have that kind of self-awareness. But I feel like with that privilege, it's a double-sided coin. On one end, you think, you know, we can talk about privilege as it being something that affords us mobility and affords us, you know, opportunities that other people, for example, in our homelands can't experience, and many, you know, depending on the different circumstances of their life, you know. But on the other hand, I feel like being able to use that privilege to spread knowledge and spread awareness and critical thinking and you know, basically what you guys were able to do in that space for 5 years or however long you were there.
Well, I
you
use
were
the
able
word privileged here in a very poetic, metaphoric way. Yeah, I did. You know what I mean? I said in the good way.
Absolutely.
I feel honored. I feel honored. Actually, it's better than privileged. But then I feel a little bit sad that this is not happening for the West, because I know it's about getting together to get to more understanding.
I mean, I think for me, a lot of that is, it's like the basis, it's the foundation of resistance. And I feel like for you guys, and the reason why your concerts are therapy and that they, you know, they like work on something like buried deep inside, is because you were able to use this beautiful creative force as resistance. And I wanted to actually talk to Walaa about dabke as resistance. So I'd love to hear your experience, because I feel like that's such a part of who you are. Dabke is, you think Walaa, you think, dabke on the tiny desk, on the tiny desk at the tiny desk concert. You think about dabke system and this community that is participating in something that is so much a part of our like traditions. And it's tell me more. Tell us more. Tell us more. Enlighten us with the dabke.
I think since we started the meeting with you talking about therapy and the idea of therapeutic process, and also Far'i mentioning the idea how come those Arab kids in the camps doing breakdance moves over like dabke traditional sounds, like why is that automatic how to say going to that place of movement. And the idea, it's very simple. Maybe the idea of therapy and circle, and if we take the idea of ciphering in hip-hop, if we take the idea of dabke moving in a circle, and we take any dance that happens in a circle where people lock into one body that unifies, moves together, this is already a force. This is a power. This is a power of energy that comes out from the people in a collective way, and there where the actual therapy happens, when this feeling of solidarity is happening, and there's the feeling of, hey, we are the best all together in doing that one thing, and we are only the best when we're all doing it together. So to take from that heritage, that long heritage of 4,000 years, 5,000 years, I think this dance been existing. This is not a young dance. This is a dance that was created from the coast of the Levant. This is between Tartus all the way to Gaza dance, that's been practiced for ages and centuries. And we just need to focus how this dance connects us to other people. And I think in 47 Soul, it's obvious how our heritage links us to the world on our personal levels and on our collective level as a band. It's reflected in our sound. It's reflected in how we speak, in the mix of the language that we are in a very normal way reflecting in our lyrics, in our performance. So yeah, it's the dabke ciphering, the healing of the nation.
That is so beautiful. Thank you for that. I feel like maybe there are some people who have not had the blessing of knowing what a dabke is. And I don't think there's anything out there that's as good as dabke system right now to like break it down. So I think we're going to play a video and really get people just more familiar exactly with this feeling and this experience of dabke, and not better through your track. So should we do it? I think Aaron's gonna play it. And he's got the tech
queued up here. So should we do dabke system? Should we do some
dabke system? Right? It's so good.
Yes, go for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that the tiny desk? Oh, amazing.
This is there. Okay. 2 seconds. Here we go.
And then we'll play border control a little later.
Sure.
Turn up the sound of the Galilee love. You hear it now, stop on the ground. ما بعتلي رسالة ما بعتلك هسا جاي تلومني وانا من قبلها يا ما حذرت لا بكتبي ولا بكتبك لا بشرحي ولا بشرحك دخلك هالحكي كله يرضى في ربي ولا ربك لا
احنا جسد واحد احنا نفس العصب مرة فلقوا الارض مرة اكلنا العصا هذا الحلاق وغيره اعلنوا النفير في الارض يصيروا مش مستاهل سفير بالشغل اجي اغير صورة نمطية ما نقولش فكرة بيتي براسك زي النبطية اليمن سعيد يمن بلوز ديزرت فانكي دانس مونكي مونكي دانس مونكي يا منوقع تحت يا منعلى فوق بس احنا ولاد بلد ولاد شتات ناس ذوق ما الرسالة من اللي بتحكي انت فيه بنوم فيها منوقع تحت منضلنا في الوحل او ننجن ممنهج الجاهل بس لا شوي روح جاب الحلم مخزوق ضلك معنا السوق منضلنا نطلع فوق
واي
God, this is like the most powerful visuals I've seen coming out of Palestine, man. Out of dabke and it's so beautiful. Okay, so this was shot in Ramallah.
Yes.
Tell us, walk us through what that behind the scenes of shooting something like that was.
There's a behind the scenes video.
No way. Okay, what was it?
No, it was just amazing. The fact that all these dancers and different dancing troops came from different parts of Palestine, the parts who were able to actually enter Ramallah, you know, it was just amazing. And the fact that the whole work is us and people who care about us to make it happen at this quality, you know what I mean, in return for, you know, like doing something that actually everyone feels like it matters. So actually I would say it was, I mean, it was nothing less than emotional at the set, to be honest. You know, it was like, yeah, I mean, maybe my brothers here can add.
Yeah, I think this is exactly as Tareq is saying, like the collective effort and the group effort that was made to create this is extraordinary. Just making the links with people, bringing dabke dancers from Haifa all the way to Nablus, all the way to Jerusalem, from across the homeland was amazing. That they were devoted to come and do their own moves and learn moves, teach each others their own moves. It was a learning and a very beautiful process, let's say.
Definitely felt it. You feel like you're living this really rare and very special moment with you guys, and the fact that you were able to bring all of these people together and the context of culture but also resistance is so powerful. It's so powerful. Ramzy, I want to ask you, because you always come with like I feel like your verses have so much information in them, and so like you're a teacher in the sense of what you're expressing through your work. You know what I mean? You're sharing with people all of the things that you've read, that you've researched, that you've, you know, accumulated over the course of your life as a thinker and somebody who's been like processing all of this stuff about your identity, about Palestine, about politics and history. So why don't you give us a little reading list? give us an idea of some things that you've read that you want people to go and pick up from their local independent bookstore.
I'd start with, I mean, not just because it's family, but I'd start with We Are the Medium and the Diatribes of a Dying Tribe. And this is like, I mean, I give this reference because it's one of the reasons that I started to write. And growing up inside of a diaspora where the hip hop wave was the main culture, and the breakdancing cipher was the main party, and it kind of like builds on what El-Farai was saying, where dabke was the breakdown, and then you go to the wedding, and then breakdancing or footwork or juke becomes the breakdown. So like, while none of us belong to the system that divided us or feel represented by it, where is our culture system link, And one of the biggest being like the split of the Arab island or the Arab identity from the African continent, and not just about geography, about the mentality and the logic behind the Arabic language and what that means now, and what that means in terms of an identity that held together so many races and ethnicities and yeah, reading list. Wow, that's a tough question. Like, I have now, like, on my Kindle, let's say, like, I have Muhammad Abd al-Jabari and Arkoon, which is like, it's very big names. It's not the moment to get into it, but I'll drop it for the people.
Yeah, man. It's that's how it all begins, you share knowledge, you spread knowledge, each one teach one. What are you guys all reading right now?
Same. I'm actually, I usually just, mainly I read the Arabic Islamic philosophy, because I've been just like obsessed about trying to know what happened to us as Arabic speaking people for the past 4 or 5 years. I've been really getting into that. So pretty much what Z mentioned, Muhammad Abd al-Jabari, Muhammad Arkoon, Muhammad Shahrur, they all touch on like, religious thought and, civil thought and all these things, the relationship between our rights and God's rights, and how is that established in Arabic language. So that interests me the most, because I feel like it sits like a massive elephant behind all of Arab problems and other, obviously, I mean, that's why I put it in quote, like, it extends to me to, I think Palestine is deeply involved in that problem. And, everyone is, in the Arabic speaking mind. So, yeah, but also I started reading a book by Salah, who was a PFLP, Palestinian Liberation Front, he's just saying his story as someone born in the 30s up until now. And this is how kind of, because I haven't read something like really that, I don't know how to call it, like something that talks about like the Palestinian resistance, like, almost like year by year. So that was my reference. And I haven't read something like that ever. So I bought this. Everything I know, I just know it because I'm Palestinian. So I want to read a actual. So that's what I'm reading. Yesterday, I watched the Dave Chappelle's Mark Twain Prize show on Netflix.
That's knowledge too.
They see. What up, Chappelle?
I thought that was emotional. I liked it a lot.
I feel like
If you ask me, I'm not reading anything, honestly. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not reading. I'm picking up olives, actually. I'm picking olives in the fields. That's what I'm doing at the moment for a couple of months. But yeah, I'm reading in the what do you call it? In the oil.
I mean, that's the essence, the true essence of our culture right there, working the land, you know. That's, I
Yeah.
think that's why Palestine is so important, because you has the connection with the land is still so much a part of our lives. And I feel like, Walaa, you have this amazing ability to maintain tradition. Yeah, there's just I mean, I'm a traditional person in the sense of, like, you know, uh in a stereotypical sense, but at the same time, you can't, like, you can't pin me down either, because I feel like with people who are still kind of really strongly connected to their tradition, we also live in the future. So there is like a futurism that is involved in, like, hanging on so tight to tradition. And I was wondering, Wala, if I wrote, well, where's this question? Um, yes. So what would you take into the future from our ancient traditions, and what would you leave behind?
It's like so much to put on the list, you know, on like two columns, and to drop too many things, you know. We won't end today this conversation.
Oh,
But
no.
but I think it is like the combination of living actually, uh, like living the land, and knowing its history and understanding its problems. Uh, like we have to understand the problems of ourselves and confront our own issues and problems, uh, and also stick to what keeps us together and keeps us mediums that can make us dialogue, because dialogue between us as people is becoming less and less happening. We are becoming more, you know, like there is more pulls happening. We are being teared apart more by the situation that is surrounding us, because everybody is turning their backs on us, you know, and we are trying to survive and keep this one notion of people who belong to this place. And I think keep the dance, and like, you know, keep the dance, because the freedom is through the mind, and it's through the body. So it's through feeding the brain, and it's through keeping the body moving, because it is a form of liberty that can help us free other things, you know. Movement in general. Yeah.
Farai, what's one thing you would leave behind, and one thing that you would keep into the future from our long list of traditions? And I want to hear from Ramzy after too.
I'll keep out our you know, keep out the violence. We have to fight the violence, keep it behind, and keep the love to the future.
I would definitely keep behind our understanding of religion. The Arabic language's understanding of all religions is problematic. That's what I'm claiming.
You're talking about
That's it. I want to leave it behind, but obviously that's a lot of homework. To be able to leave it behind is a lot of digging into it to get why. What I would take to the future is our hope. Yeah, I mean, I don't believe that everyone lost hope. That's some bullshit they always try to make you feel, you know what I mean, somehow. Because I've seen some passionate people out there, you know what I mean? Like they tell us that sometimes. They tell me that, you know, I just know I see them. I know there's believers out there, you know? Yeah.
Ramzy,
Guy's still around. What?
are you there, Ramzy?
Yeah. Wow, I got overwhelmed for a second because, like,
It's a heavy one. I got a light one coming.
But the question is
like, okay, I mean, it's like the continuation of everything that the guy said. Like it's, I put it for me as like the modern religious interpretation being at odds with scientific development and a scientific, what they call like a scientific breakdown. You know what I mean? So that, or like, you know, the it could be as simple as like diametric opposition of belief and thinking, and like what that, the implications of that in tribal honor being frozen inside of one religious interpretation from the past. So yeah, that's a big one. And then I'd keep the drums and keys and the movement and our way of, you know, putting it through our teeth.
I would have loved to have been a fly in the wall in the
Like
conversation
bro.
that you had in that house you shared. Wallah, I feel like it's just like mind blowing, and I feel like these are answers that we got to take with us moving forward, because the world's changing. It's changing, and I feel like it's so ready to change. You know, like systemic
Yeah,
change.
it's so ready to change.
It's
Is the
ready,
word.
man. You know.
You know,
Yeah.
my sister Sundus, sorry for cutting you off, but like we need more words. We need more words to describe some situations we're in. I don't want, like, when it comes to Arabic language, that's a whole different story. That there's a lot of words, like there's a lot of homework needs to be done now. But I think that also goes for anything. Like, I mean, most of the models from the century that just ended 20 years ago, which, you know, kind of brought us here, like a lot of the models, the understanding, the way to describe things just doesn't apply. Like I sit down with friends, and the reason why we can't have the conversation now is even when someone is not even done saying what they're saying, the way in which they refer to a certain word is problematic to you. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of terms that we need like linguists to be at parties.
Yes, yes. We need, like, yeah.
We need anthropologists to be like, we need this, whatever is thought as like, oh no, this is like philosophy that needs to be in some university department, needs to come down to the street like urgently, you know? It's
Wow, I
needed.
love that. I feel like
People
a
just
lot of
throwing
us
words
are
left and right, like bang.
Yep.
Anything you say, it's like, I don't know if any three people agree on what feminism means, Islam means. I mean, should I just go with the list? You know, what does free Palestine mean? You talk about the two things, or are you talking about the Sykes-Picot map? I mean, what are you talking about? You know, like all of the things need redefinition, you know? I mean, half of the people you start a conversation with, they're referring to a group of people when you're referring to like a colonial state. That's some bullshit.
I mean,
right? I mean,
like this is I feel like the
Palestine
essence
now is that. Now we've catch up. Now when you say Palestine, they're talking about this other gang that wants to have like some sort of a country that looks like this. You know what I mean? It's like, what is that?
I mean, anybody committed to creating new languages, whether it's through song, dance, music, or Semitics, you know, words, and create like the creation of this kind of like new narrative, you have to think about these things. So I think we're almost out, because I think that they want to open it up for questions and answers from the wonderful audience who has been, you know, listening and watching and expanding their minds with us. So I wanted to end in two ways. First, I want to play Border Control for everybody, in the essence of what it means to like break borders and just, you know, this man-made bullshit that we just accept for what it is, and how easily these things can fall apart. You know, things that we believe in so strongly as part of the system are actually man-made, right? So I wanted to end with Border Control, but before that, I want to end our conversation with one word in the spirit of Semitics, one word to describe Palestine from each of you.
say land.
Mother. Say again.
Yeah, I said land. You said knowledge. So like we're
Answers.
it's tuning. Yeah. Answers. Stay.
It's always taking us to the womb, back to the, you know, to the land, to the womb, to the woman, mother.
Not that I want to go back to this whole like the Palestinian question, but you know, however they meant it, it has some truth in it. It has something about it, this whole Palestinian question thing. I know it's been used in different ways, but yeah, that's what I say answers, because yeah, there is something that like there's layers that everyone wants to ignore every time we talk about Palestine. Or let's say everyone has, that's not one word, I know, but I told you in the beginning, my sister, I can't do the short answers, saying there isn't anyone who Palestine doesn't question more than just some political thing to them. And it goes and starts questioning other things and breaking up, you know what I mean? It just keeps pulling you back. It's like one of those problems that you can relate to all other problems. Someone be like, how come you're putting Palestine in this? And you be like, well, I'll show you how. And you go through the steps and be like, thanks. All right.
I feel like Palestine for me is it's like the balance. It shows you what side of history we need to stand on, you know? And I feel like it's that the question and the answer, in the sense of like it's the weight. It's the weight that decides which way we're gonna go. And I'm hopeful as well, you know. You guys
I like that
mentioned
you said it's the question and the answer. So now we can, like our, you know, to counter the whole Palestinian question, we should call it the Palestinian Q&A, you know?
Yes, which is what we're about to do. To just end it, I want to say thank you guys so much. Wallah, yani, I can't tell you how much moments of inspiration I've had with your music, whether it was live or in my own headphones, or just, you know, in the space of discovering and rediscovering like our sound and what you guys were able to do with Shamstep, and the fact that your visuals are always so thoughtful and really beautiful and like poetic and just they're great. Your videos are amazing, and the fact that you know, you take the time to share your knowledge. I think it's amazing. As a musical group, people expect entertainment, but actually they're getting a lot more than that. They're getting enlightenment. Shukran. And I want to just end it with telling us a little bit about border control, from whoever wants to pick up the mic on that. Tell us about the video, about the track.
But I want to thank you, Sundus. It's good to see you, my sister. Shout out to you and for your amazing art and everything you've done for culture. And I want to say one thing about border control. It was shot in 4 countries. It was shot in Palestine, Jordan, the UK, and Mexico City.
Featuring our first feature also with Shadia, Mansour, and Fitzilla. Shout out to them as well.
Both of them, of course. Oh, and the video had Al-Ajaweed, which is a dance troupe from the biggest Palestinian refugee camp in the world, the Baqa, which lives in Jordan. And so these guys joined us. They've been in touch with us before. I think Z, you were talking to them along the way for a while, right? Ajaweed.
He made the link.
Yeah. So we kind of, you know, we said let's do something with a dance troupe, and they're a cool dance troupe because they have this something. They have like special moves that they add. They have their own style, you know. So they have this kick.
Amazing. Let's play it. Shukran. Thank you, guys.
يسعدك.
سمعني الصفقة ولا تفتح ولا تقلب صفحة يتفضل على الصف الكل يتفضل على الصف هي طلبوا الهوية يابا طلبوا الهوية It's border control congesting our soul taking its toll on us all we're gonna dissolve this Mexico Bethlehem war if you hear us heed the call
جاب وصل على بال مغرب انه انفاس الاطفال لاثبات انسانيتهم لو شوف الجمل حدبته بقع بفكره انه باختصار مش احنا عبرنا الحدود يابا بالعكس اللي حدود عبراتنا بغزه الضفه القدس المكسيك حنصد الجدر الخرساني والندي محله جدر بالشام
It's border control congesting our soul taking its toll on us all we're gonna dissolve this Mexico Bethlehem war if you hear us heed the call
Bienvenido a la fila que definirá tu vida que separa tu pasado de un futuro sin Hawaii condenado sin la visa esta línea no se pisa ni sin jueces arbitrarios con razones indecisas
يتفضل على الصف الكل يتفضل على الصف هاي طلبوا الهوية يابا طلبوا الهوية
El documento estampado, permiso rechazado Juntos enfrentamos injusticias del Estado Palestino, latino, andino no será callado Palestino, latino, andino no será callado
يتفضل على الصف الكل يتفضل على الصف هاي طلبوا الهوية يابا طلبوا الهوية It's border control congesting our soul taking its toll on us all we're gonna dissolve this Mexico Bethlehem war if you hear us heed the call
Bienvenido a la fila
All right, amazing. That was 47 Soul again with Border Control. And that's off the new album, Semitics. Wow, I mean, I've been sitting here, I've been watching the videos, been listening to this conversation, and like my heart is exploding. This has been so incredible. I want to thank Sundus Abdelhadi so much for moderating this incredible discussion today. Sundus, if people want to check out some of your work, I know, of course, you have a new book coming out really soon. Some of your previous books, do you have a website or social media, or what's the best way for people to connect with you?
Yeah, you can always follow me on social media at Sundus Abdelhadi on Instagram. Then I have a link in bio. Everything's there. You can just follow it.
Awesome.
Or wearethemedium.com. That's a good way to go about it.
Indeed.
Thank you for that.
Yes, people should check out the We Are the Medium collective, which much like what we're trying to do with these Firestarter chats, just like bringing together amazing minds and amazing artists throughout the Arab diaspora, but like throughout many diasporas as well too. And you all are doing such amazing work with that collective. So props to that. And thank you again to 47 Soul for being with us, being so generous with your time today. If you guys have maybe like another 15 minutes or so, I know we have a few questions from the audience. And if you guys are able to stick around, that's cool. We can take a few questions from people.
Yes,
Yeah,
of course.
Okay, awesome. So the two best ways to ask questions, you can type them into the Q&A box if you're watching on Zoom, or if you're watching us on Facebook, you can drop a question into the chat and I'll try to grab it there. And just quickly before we get to the questions, I do really want to recommend that people check out some of our upcoming events too. This Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. I guess it'll be a little bit late Palestine time, like around midnight Palestine time, but we're going to be doing an event with the Tareq podcast, which is a really incredible radical Jewish podcast. And then next Tuesday at, so that's October 29th, 1 p.m. Eastern, I believe it's 5 p.m. London time and 8 p.m. Palestine time. Always really hard with all the time zones, but we're going to be with Rafif Ziada, amazing Palestinian poet, community organizer. Really, I think one of the people who helped to launch the BDS campaign in Canada when she used to live in Toronto, and just such an incredible voice. So again, you can go to our website, ijvcanada.org/Firestarter Chats and find all the info there. So we had a really interesting question from Jean, who dropped this in the chat before. So he said he bought a copy of the one of your earlier albums, the Balfron Promise, and then he told a friend that it was called the Balfour Promise, and then of course it's the Balfron Promise, not the Balfour Promise. And so he was wondering what the meaning of the word Balfron is.
Basically, it refers to a tower in London in which we lived in and wrote that album in, called the Balfron Tower. But there was a story about the Balfron Tower that had to do with the residents, in which they were told to leave on a promise that there'll be a renovation, one of those crazy gentrification stories in an East London building. And it's an old building, right? And so it started as a joke. Walaa said, we walk in and he's like, we just laughed because Balfour and Balfour sound together. And so we made that connection between the Balfour Promise, being something very significant for the history of Palestinians and how Palestinians ended up leaving their homes. So yeah, it was that connection. So John, whatever you had in a conversation with your friend, you guys were on the right track.
Amazing.
I want to build on Farah's point, because it's about the new language, and like the Balfour Promise. It's not just something that's historical, because I mean, I feel like it's an ongoing thing, especially with the the Trump, Macron, Boris executive orders that Israel is a nationality for the Semite people, and that I can say from experiences Arabs in America, like we share the pain with the Jewish people of America as a result of a very recent survival story, and it's very recent, an ethnic cleansing, and coming to a land that's already been used via a persecuted people to settle and displace another. So then coming here, and then these orders saying that there is a nationality that represents Semitism. And then the question is, like, did the Semite masses choose their state? You know what I mean? It's a lot of questions.
Yeah, word. Thank you. I'm going to go to another question. So we have Narcy, who's been listening into this conversation. Shout out Yassine. And
shout out to Narcy.
Shout out the boss.
Salam, boss.
I think a huge inspiration to us all. I was listening to an interview with Narcy on Talib Kweli's podcast the other day. There's really incredible, long conversation, but like the whole conversation is amazing. So people should.
I'm gonna go watch that right now. Is that out? That's out, yeah?
It's out. Yeah, you can grab it,
Nice.
podcast, maybe on video as well too.
I'll find it.
Real
I'll
fun.
find it.
Anyways, Narcy's question is, how are you guys moving forward as 3 people all in different places now?
We're not, bro. We're just not moving.
What was the question again? Sorry.
Asking us how are we moving, that we're like 3 people in different places now. So I'm like, we're not moving.
Not moving.
Yeah.
I have no license of a car even.
But yeah, when things open up, it'll be the kind of thing where we meet and do a rehearsal and go on tour, inshallah.
For sure.
He's saying how we're creating, like from distance.
Right.
Are we still
I
creating?
can see the questions now. All right. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, you know, interwebs. You know how it goes, bro. You know, sending files, couple of Zoom meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Like, where's it all jumbled?
Jumbo.
Jumbo.
Yeah. It's like it's a tech development. Yeah.
We had the
Welcome to
honor
the
of
interwebs.
Narcy actually joining us on stage when we played in his city. You know what I mean? In Montreal.
Yeah.
And it was a nice night. Shout out, brother. Always big respect.
Yeah.
Incredible. So again, we have time for a few more questions. If people have questions, again, drop your questions in the Q&A box. Maybe I'll use my moderator's privilege and ask a question that I've been really dying to ask you guys. I love the new album. I mean, it hits so hard. It's just like, it's really emotional, I think, listening to it, because it gives this art form where people can connect like all around the world. So of course, you know, we're talking about Palestine, we're talking about the Middle East, but we're not just talking about the Middle East, right? We see that with border control and how we're talking about the US-Mexico border and like migration issues in Latin America too. One of my personal favorite songs on the album is Sam's People. And it's got this line in it, who told you the Semite people should be divided into separate nations? And again, just like really deep, right? Like thinking about like, you know, these awful governments, right? Like whether it's like Trump or Netanyahu or Bolsonaro in Brazil, right? Like these governments that divide people who should not be divided. And so can you talk a little bit more about that song and that line and what you're getting there?
Yeah, I can say, I'll start because this the line coming through my voice. There's many layers of discrimination, like you said, and you know, they all have to do with identity and in the visual discrimination, like that spectrum. You know, like black is on the most ostracized part of that spectrum, and we won't know what it's like to feel that. And being an Arabic speaker of part of the Semite family is an audio discrimination. You know what I mean? And it's like these orders that are not done on behalf of the people. You know, they're very authoritarian. I mean, you know, like they ask the question, does that mean that, you know, because you're from one of the Abrahamic religions, does that mean that you're not a naturalized citizen in these diaspora countries? So it brings up like the same sectarian in the bigger, you know, of the 3 Abrahamic faiths that we're talking about, that religious apartheid. I mean, that's what I would really call it, because you know, it's a separation based on that identification.
You know, Aaron, something that I would like to add, that it's really sad that all the, you know, the kind of regimes and systems that contributed in the wrong teaching of such understanding of the culture of the Middle East are now trying to rebuy and promote it in a different way. And obviously I'm referring to Gulf countries with the Israeli occupation system, right? I mean, And that, I feel like, I would say that I'm proud that we are having this conversation. It's an honor to be invited by IJV, Independent Jewish Voices, because that, you know, some people would say like, you know, maybe some people in the West, to them, it's like, yeah, it's just a conversation on the channel. But to us as Palestinians, to have this conversation, it's the biggest answer to all these people now trying to buy into like, you know, it's gonna take me a long time to describe it, so I'm gonna move on, but I'll say one thing. I have seen a news report on an Arabic channel referring to Palestinians in Arabic. See, that's a very new, that's unprecedented, to Palestinians in the 1920s as having anti-Semitic movements. That is very dangerous, you know? I grew up visiting my grandma in the refugee camp, and our Palestinian refugee neighbor, Khadr, was a Jewish Palestinian woman. So I will never have to listen to this propaganda and stuff. But it's almost like the media and the history is much faster than us, that we're trying to catch up and be like, oh, hold on. So this is an important webinar for me, you know,
Yeah.
respect.
Thank you for that. And
I just want to add, sorry, Aaron, just to add to that, like on the very personal level, like, I mean, I grew up as literally the son of Sami, literally the son of a Semite, like, and that being a word that's so precious to me to describe naming everything, you know what I mean? Ascribing a name and ism, and a verbal identification to things, and that means that, you know, like, we do need a lot of new language to get into what we're really talking about, because now we're really forced inside of that, you know, globalism and, you know, humanism.
For sure.
That's why I would like to add just the last thing. That's why it's re-questioning the terminology and digging into who invented those terminologies and when and for what reasons, and that's maybe why also it comes as an answer from the sample that we've used by a very important rabbi called Dov Berkovich, who explains exactly that anti-Semitism applies for both Arabs and Jews. It's not an exclusivity terminology, and questioning who invented the race theory, you know, who the race theory, who was it invented by and who promoted it, and then we understand, if we question that, we realize how closer to oneness we all are.
Thank you for that. And I mean, I have a lot of hope that, like, through music, and I think through the power of what you guys are doing with 47 Soul, again, it can be a platform to bring people together, you know, like when we want to find peaceful solutions, just solutions to bring justice to this world. It's going to come, of course, through activism and through people acting, but it's also going to come through culture, through music, through dance. And, you know, that to me, and I think for a lot of people in IJV, is what 47 Soul is all about. I'm going to get to one last question before we go. This is from Leslie, who's been listening in, and Leslie wrote, as someone who has lived on the US-Mexico border, I love the new video Border Control because it connects the US-Mexico border context and Palestine through the collaboration of visuals. How did you all choose to work with Fedzilla, who is the other MC on that track? And are there any other artists from the US-Mexico border region that you would like to work with in the future? And then Leslie also says, I would love it if y'all gave a border tour, a radical border tour, when you come back.
Border tour.
I'll start like the technical, the story of meeting Fedzilla is really interesting, because she's actually from my neighborhood here in the DC DMV area, but I didn't meet her here. It was only in London when we were moving there as a group I went to an open mic night at one venue that we played a lot, Passing Clouds, and she was on stage and super fire. And I wanted to say what up to her, and I held it to the moment that I visited Al Jihaz, guitar player who was with us for all of these albums, and he was living with her sister, and so that full circle, it's a backstory that, like, you know, links a lot of levels. And when she was really, you know, she was speaking a lot about the indigenous struggle in the Americas as a, you know, a child of native indigenous Andino people, and the idea of the Mexico wall as being something that it divides not just people's land, indigenous land here in the Americas, but the whole actual structure of the Americas, and it being a border for all of the South from the North. And you know, it's a crawling wall. I mean, it's a growing.
Yeah.
It comes, you know, to find us in our chat rooms.
Remember that the only way to walk from Asia to Africa is via Palestine. So, you know, this is something to take into consideration a lot when talking about Palestine. It's not about Abu Dis, you know. Shout out to Abu Dis.
And any other artists, either from that region, like the US-Mexico border region, or any other artists that you guys would either want to do collaborations with in the future, or that you shout out?
Criollo, Anna Tiju, we got close. We're friends, you know, we've met, we've collaborated on stage in the past. It was a blessing. I think there's many more that we need to dig into. I mean, these are just ones I can think of top of my head, honestly.
Residente.
Guy 13, yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Personally, I would love to hear a collaboration between 47 Soul and Anna Tiju. That would be fire. Well, listen, I mean, this has been incredible again. I want to thank all of you guys from 47 Soul for being so generous with your time today, for sharing your stories, sharing your thoughts, sharing your words. It's been really, really powerful. And I want to thank Sundus Abdulhadi as well for moderating this amazing conversation. So people should, you know, check out Sundus's work. People should check out 47 Soul, like the new album, Semitics. Oh my God, what an incredible listen. You can find it, you know, on all the streaming platforms. It's up there. It's pretty much on constant rotation in our house, regardless of the time of day, morning, evening, lunchtime, whenever. Listen to this album. And, you know, do check out our future events. I hope people can continue to connect with independent Jewish voices and the work we do. Again, just go to ijvcanada.org. You can sign up for our newsletter. You can make a donation if you support our work, or just find out about our upcoming events and campaigns. So once again, Tareq, Z, Walaa, thank you so much for being with us today.
Respect.
Thank you for hosting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
For hosting us.
Big pleasure.
Everyone else. Everyone.